Hi, I'm Chris from Darker Days Radio, and this is my roundup video of, plus it includes interviews of UK Games Expo 2023. Thank you again to UK Games Expo for allowing me to get a press pass for the event. It's the first time myself and thus Darker Days Radio have been back to UK Games Expo since the pandemic. And heck, it was massive. Like, again, it's bigger than ever. Had even more people, I think 50,000 people over the course of the weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, across 3 halls. You know, there was the typical things like the dark room, seminars. There was also I think a laser tag. Yeah, Warhammer 40,000 laser tag. There was, of course, the Viking reenactment. There was cosplay. And of course, the Hilton was host to, again, numerous roleplay games being played and open gaming in the main halls with board games. There's a board game library. There's also, if you go along and you want to take part, there's also competitive play areas for various types of games, and also open gaming in those halls. But of course, there's a lot going on. Like, you can have demo. There are many board games, not all my kind of thing, but that's the great thing about, and the same with RPGs and miniature games really, the plethora of things available are great for any sort of gamer, whether they're kind of really hardcore into it, turned into like playing, I don't know, say Star Wars Legion, or if they're into their really also, let's say, really deep board games, very complex ones, or if they're into something a bit more casual, we want also some stuff that's a bit more friendly for the younger audience. So Board Games Expo, UK Games Expo covers this large gamut of retailers of games. And yeah, you can go along and you can meet the creators, find out about how they make the games, how they design them, see new games that aren't yet on sale that may be going on towards Kickstarters, and also, of course, meet up with your friends and try out some new stuff, get some demos in. Some of the main sponsors of the event is like Games Workshop. They had a stand, huge area devoted to demoing, of course, Warhammer 40,000 10th edition, which is just kind of coming out to us online. But they had obviously painted up ready for demo games their new Tyranid models and new Space Marine Primaris Marines there. You have a painting area. They also had a shopping area which had all the stuff. No sales, this Games Workshop, so there's no discount there. But I think if you're looking for miniatures that often you have to pay shipping for because you are looking to get stuff that you could only get from Games Workshop directly, so like Forge World, so Necromunda models, and that's also what I picked up for myself. I should have an example somewhere. I don't have it here. I've put it down somewhere and it's not here. But I do have other things. So what I got from Games Workshop was the Enforcer Scrutinator with the Cyber Mastiff. So that's a really great miniature which I'll be looking forward to gluing together and painting up. Then Cubicle 7 is another main sponsor of the event, and they had their all the Warhammer 40,000 RPG stuff. They had the first print copy of Imperium Maledictum, the new 40k RPG, to show off to people. They also had, of course, all of Soulbound, the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. They also had quite a lot of their new Dungeons and Daleks and the Doctor Who RPG, which they're renowned for. So for me, it was great also to catch up with writers and developers I've worked with. And of course from that I picked up, because I don't have a copy of this, even though I write for Wrath and Glory, I haven't picked up a copy of this yet, is the Games Master screen. So I picked up this, which has some short scenario concepts in there and NPCs and hooks to use in games. That's what I'll be looking into. And then we've got the screen itself, which is kind of this wide format version that looks like so. You can see is festooned with art depicting the Adeptus Sororitas. So that's one thing I picked up. Warlord Games there with their range of miniatures, and I stopped off at the booth because Tommy Sewell, who has been on Dark Days Radio before, and you'll see an interview in a moment, had his book, The Art Of, which is volume 5 of a series of books by miniature painting artists. And so Tommy's book is fantastic. I mean, it's essentially a how-to and guide on colour theory, painting, everything, really just on fundamentals of brushwork, and something I really need to dive into more deeply to improve my painting. My painting's good. I think it's good, but I think I could learn a lot from this for more showcase type miniatures, and I consider Kingdom Death my showcase for stuff. So we'll have a look at that interview now. So I am here with Tommy Sewell looking at his minis, which are incredible because he's been on the podcast before years ago.
And a long time ago, when you first started.
Yeah, it wasn't when I first started, but it was when I moved back from Germany.
How long ago was that? 10 years?
8 years.
8, not bad.
Anyway, in that time, you've got a book.
I have got a book.
Amongst many other books here.
Amongst many other
tell us about the book.
Right, so it's called The Art of Tommy Sewell. However, it's not about me and my art, it's more about you and yours. And that is the bit that's really important to me. It was kind of important because when Dave asked me to write the book, I hadn't really painted at a top end and kept myself up to date, and in the public light. So when he asked me to write a book, I thought, well, what value do I have to share? And I figured, well, why not immortalise what I teach my students? And that teaching is about how simple painting can be at whatever level. And I think that's valuable, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So like, to bring that into perspective, if I was to make a statement, good brushstroke in a good place takes as much time to paint as a shit brushstroke in a shit place. That hopefully then should illustrate what I'm trying to get across.
That makes sense.
And while top end painting can take time, it doesn't necessarily mean that quality takes time.
Yeah, no, I understand what you mean, because you can get good quality with very simple, actually quick techniques without having to do many steps. Like, I paint quite differently with contrast paints when I want to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Compared to when I say do Kingdom Death, and like your Flower Night inspired how I painted mine. I was like, well, no, because I looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. I was like, that's how you do non-metallic metals, and I need to grab your book for more of that.
Oh, dude, thank you. Well, you see, I liken painting to tightrope walking, or even climbing, because you see, people who follow me on Instagram will know I climb a lot, I share a lot of climbing. It's like a beginner tightrope walker needs to learn left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
Yeah.
An expert tightrope walker does left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, but he just does it better. So the big question is how then do we take the beginner stuff and improve only the beginner stuff? So there are no expert techniques. There are just expert ways of doing the beginner techniques.
Yeah.
So when you go on, or when our painter goes on a journey of looking for a new technique, or they're chasing mist and smoke when it's already there at the beginning. Now the unfortunate thing is when we're beginner painters, we get taught a poor way or an incomplete way of learning how to paint. And that's generally like a Games Workshop fast, fun, furious method. Whereas instead, if people were taught, I don't mean to say that people are deliberately toxic. I think the people doing the teaching don't know either. And this is what the book is basically about, deconstructing you as a painter, getting rid of all your bullshit, keeping what counts, and then only improving what counts. So if you imagine you could isolate your painting down to the stuff you have to do and only improve the stuff you had to do, then anything you chose to build on top of that was already and automatically improved, if that makes sense. So I'm a massive advocate for base coating. The better you are at base coating, the better you are at shading and highlighting. The better
all your prep,
everything.
Good prep means everything.
But even what I mean is, it's even in a skill set. So it's not so. Like the superficial way of looking at it is, the better you prep the model, the better you do your undercoat, the better you do your base coat, and everything builds on that, and the better that will be, and that all makes sense. But what about your base coat of a skill set? What about your basic fundamental skill set? What if you now go back to that and strengthen that and improve that and refine that and make that more accurate, more deliberate, and more skillful? Well, those skills, those attributes will then move up through the quality of your work as well. So everything then compounds, So there you go. That is what that's about. And then there's a bit at the end that kind of, as a teacher to learn how to see painting, I'll take you through some of my existing works, which is this lot here, and then hopefully then you won't look at the painting. So I'll digress in. There's one question with two answers that are the same answer, but how you answer them becomes important. So when some people who don't have an eye for painting look at the work, they go, how do you do that? When you got this information, you can ask that same question, but you can go, right, how do you do that? And you can answer it. And that's the difference. So it's about seeing the magic act, being wowed by it, and knowing how it's done. So hopefully I use a completely new language to the world at large in painting. I don't use terms like feathering, wet blending, blah blah blah, because it doesn't tell you what it is or how to do it. So it's more jargon to baffle your brain.
Yeah, being told feathering doesn't actually tell you how to do
feathering. Tell you what it is, how to do it, when to use it. But it's bandied around our industry everywhere. Whoa.
Don't worry, I mean, there's that same jargon in computer science. Someone tells you how to do that, you're like, but how do you do that?
And why? So, but the other thing is there's multiple types of feathering, and which one is it? Do you know what I mean?
And same with dry brushing. Dry brushing is the entire. Dry brushing is its own genre of painting miniatures.
Yes, it is. Well, it is interesting. Oh, wonderful, Colin. Oh, look at these.
You're painting some
Judge Dredd.
I've just been bugging Andy Chambers about stuff, and obviously,
he did a rule set. Was it with Gav Falk as well, Colin? Yeah, Gav Falk.
Yeah, Andy's going to be on the podcast at some point again.
That's some good genealogy there for a game, isn't it? Right,
I think I'll leave you to do some paint. I think that's a good point to end. So I'm actually going to pick up a copy of this because I need it.
Oh, Chris, thank you. It means a lot to me that people buy it. It really does, because like I put my heart and soul into it. I genuinely did, and now I've got it. It's by no means perfect, and I'm excited to do another edition of it.
Oh yeah,
and just improve it from there. And I'm trying not to sell it necessarily, but I am excited about it, and I do believe it's valuable. To the community at large, because of what we said a second ago, I'm trying to cut through the bullshit, cut through the jargon. Though I do it in a roundabout the houses way. I don't just go, do A, B, C, follow me, blah, blah, blah. It's not about recreating my style, it's about painting how you want, but it's about getting you to declutter and rebuild.
Because if you're teaching the fundamentals but properly explained, it's the whole thing of like, how do you do a Picasso? Picasso only got to where he was by doing all the basics and learning how to deconstruct it to create a new style.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you get like deeper into philosophy now.
Oh yeah.
But that is the
The more you look, the more you understand. The more you understand, the better you can draw or paint.
Well, it's about seeing the simplicity of everything and not the complexity. Because when you realise the complexity is only made of simplicity, it's either that or that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then you go, well, when you look at this complex idea, you go, right, where can I find the first that? Well, that's the only one you've got to do. But here's the best bit. That's the only one you can do. You can't do more than one brushstroke at a time.
Yeah.
So why, when you look at complexity, why get overwhelmed? Or because you don't know, you see it all as one, and you try and paint it all as one.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, you can just go, let's just go.
That's a huge lesson. Is often when people are painting stuff is you get to that midpoint sometimes. You just think this looks crap. But then you do the last few steps and it all pulls together.
You know what, Chris? I do a chapter on that.
Yeah, right.
I do a chapter on that because I remember Vicky years ago. She'd say to me, "How is it that you can spend 3 days painting the model? It looks like shit, and in the last 20 minutes you do like 4 brushstrokes, and it just looks like a work of art." And he goes, "Well, because I trust the process."
Yeah.
Well, how can I trust the process? Well, I've finished more models enough to know. So again, let's give a non-nets example. A lot of people will get partway through non-nets and go, "Oh, I'm fucking this up, I'm shit at this, blah, 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 I give up." Well, no, get to the end. Because in the last few brushstrokes and last few little specular highlights, things come alive.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe I can do it. And here's the other thing, if you don't do it by the end, well, now you've got this brilliant roadmap with which to go, right, where did I go wrong?
Yeah.
But if you give up halfway through, then
you've learned nothing.
You've learned nothing. Yeah, you've only learned that you can just walk away.
Yeah.
And it's easy to walk away.
Oh yeah, it's easy to walk away.
I didn't learn non-nets by giving up. Because painting is a process of, I'm doing it wrong, I'm doing it wrong, spot it going wrong, right, let's bring it back this way, spot it going wrong this way, bring it back. And painting is this, it's not that.
Yeah.
That's why I like to use tightrope walking as an example. It's a balancing act. It's not a balanced act. It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
To end it, art is life. And life moves and fluctuates. Things that are balanced are dead. Bricks, tables, they just boom, they're there, they're balanced, they're done. Life balances. Art is life. You know? So there you go.
Buy this book.
Well, there's other books. In fact, you got Mel Bowers if you're into gaming and scenery. You got Christoph Keel if you're into a more artistic feel about things. You got Miniature Monthly, which is 3 different artists over 3 different disciplines. It was just mind-blowingly good. And then you've got Chris Surrey, who's very expressive and he likes to go through composition. Well, we've now got Sanies as well. So there's another artist called Sani. Yeah, or Naburasini, known as on the internet. His book actually isn't here, but I'm sure it'll be on Warlord's website. All different points of view on how to paint models fantastically. I'd say mine is more technical and analytical within yourself to develop you. That's why I said mine's not about me.
Yeah.
Theirs is all about the way they do things. Mine is about how you want to see and do your things.
Cool. Well, thanks for that. I'm going to let you paint. So, bye for now.
Bye for now. See you, everybody.
Right, so another miniatures game I'm really interested, I think, for the scale of it, is by Cerberus Miniatures. Is it Cerberus Miniatures or Cerberus Studios? You'll see on the interview in a moment. But essentially, it's a 54mm kind of medieval horror miniatures game, skirmish game, that allows a lot of detail both on the miniatures and for the models. And it's the first time I've really seen an attempt at a 54mm skirmish game since Inquisitor. And so they're really going in on this. And there's a Kickstarter right now you can back. And the miniatures look fantastic. You can compare them to their previous range as well. The sculpts are superb. So let's have a look at that interview now.
So, I am at Cerberus Studios with Celestial Infinity.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So this is currently on Kickstarter.
Yes, it launched on Thursday morning. I'm delighted to say it got funded in 24 hours. So now it's a case of me just enjoying it and talking to you all about it and encouraging you to spend a little bit more of the rewards to get the bigger tiers. It's a 54 medieval skirmish game. It's vampires, humans and werewolves against the hated demons. The starter box has 3 demons and 3 humans, but there's options to go into the other races where we've got werewolves where they can transition into the store people, and we also have vampires as well.
And then the mechanics for it then utilises these cubes I can see. So
Yes.
what role do they have in the game?
So with each character you get a character card. They each come with their own stats and their own special abilities. We use a cube methodology where the cubes actually give you a boost to your stats depending on what you choose. But the cubes also act as a wound counter. So with each wound you lose a cube, you become less powerful, and it comes to the point where if you lose all your cubes, all your wounds, you perish.
Yeah, and that makes it really easy to track, but also
Very much so.
the characters evolve with their wounds.
Exactly. We also have some extra tokens you may see in some of the other miniatures. Some abilities leave a lasting effect. We have stunned, bleeding, wounded, and on fire. We also have a mage here who has magic abilities. We have a variety of magic spells which you will use in the starter box, which gives you an offensive spell, a boosting spell, and also just general protection spells.
Okay, and then if people want to back this in the core game, how many miniatures do they get?
So we've got several options. We've got the core game on its own where you don't necessarily have to have my miniatures, so you can use standees, but it always recommends using the miniatures because it gives this effect.
Yeah, of course.
You can then also buy it with 3 miniatures aside, so 3 demons and 3 humans, or you can go for the full pledge, which is all humankind, which is currently available, and all demonkind, which is currently available. We also have, because he's been out for quite a while, Emperor Aronoth as an add-on. He was launched 2 years ago just to introduce you to the IP, but now he's available to actually have a world to play in.
Right. Okay. And this is all a brand new world compared to your previous miniatures
Very
range.
much so. So I also have another range called Mortal's Reckoning, which is the 32mm scale Greco-Roman fantasy. Those miniatures are purely to enjoy for painting, proxying, D&D roleplay. However, I am writing an RPG for that, which is currently in testing. We'll be doing open testing later on in the year, and I'm writing a tabletop game.
Well, that's really interesting given that, as I say, Dark Days Radio is into miniatures, because we love Kingdom Death and war games in general, and we love RPGs like Vampire and
I've played Vampire
Warhammer
many a time,
so we'll have to get you on to talk about the RPG as well.
I'd
and,
love to.
And
Yeah, love to.
everything else, but it looks really great. And as I overheard you talking to another attendee, so you sculpt a lot as well of these?
Yeah, so all of these are my creations, but I work with a very talented team
Yeah.
also to help me bring these things to life. I know my limitations,
Yeah.
but I have the imagination and creativity,
Yeah.
and this is what I really enjoy.
I'm internally jealous because while I write for RPGs, I would love to sculpt or I love to draw, but I don't have that skill, unfortunately.
It's working with the right people.
Yeah.
It's, detailed briefs are key.
Oh yeah.
I love building characters, I love building lore, and then, as you can probably tell, I'm quite passionate about this, so that can convey over to my sculptors who create these fabulous designs for me.
Well, if anyone wants to know it, where to get it, Kickstarter's there. There's a QR code there, which means if you scan that on the screen right now,
That should work.
they should go to the Kickstarter. That's brilliant. Well, thanks for your time,
Pleasure.
and
Thank
enjoy
you.
the rest of the expo.
Thank you very much.
Right. Also, tons of RPGs there. I've already spoken of. We had Leyland Press is another one. I've spoken about Cubicle 7, but Leyland Press are there with their. What was it? Something about dogs and cats. Some RPG about rats, mutant, the anthropomorphic in a world where humans have disappeared. I think. It was werewolves. Because even dogs need jobs, apparently. They also had some preview copies of their new Mecha RPG, which looks fantastic. The design style is amazing. And across from them, fortunately, also dealing with Mecha, was the stand showing off Xenogenesis. So this is a Mecha combat game with which are doing hard plastic. They're in the process of getting the miniatures ready. And that's a game that's been, the rule system has been developed by Gav Thorpe and Andy Chambers, so we will attempt to get them on the show to talk about that. I'm always happy to talk to Andy about the things he gets up to. But it looks very interactive, so there's never a slow moment in the game for you as an opponent, so it's very reactive in the way you play, good resource control, and the miniatures again have this kind of Ghost in the Shell, pat the ball kind of look to them. And yeah, all things go to plan. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to paint. Then let's see, where else do we have? I mean, you had all the normal, all the typical kind of rogues gallery. You could always have suppliers there and merchandise. So you could go to Wayland Games, go to and pick up things, or Leisure Games to pick up print copies of things from Bionics Path. We also had Deep Cut Studios is there, where I got a new playmat for Necromunda, and got this. Basically, you roll it out. It's neoprene, like their battle mats, and this is a road. So I've already cut it up into strips. So you get these little segments that you can cut into. You can cut these semicircles into segments. So that means I can quite easily lay out road segments for my wargaming. So that's going to be great. Obviously, there's a plethora of MDF terrain manufacturers there, with like Wayland Games also making their own, and so much to pick from. And the designs keep getting more and more, like, technically more interesting, and it's amazing what they can achieve with MDF these days. Let's see, and then RPGs, so many different ones, and new people trying out their new ones. Most interestingly, and you're going to see the interview next for that, was by Parable Games and their game Shiver.
So I'm here with Parable Games, and we've got Shiver. So introduce yourself and explain Shiver to us.
Absolutely. Hi, so I'm Charlie. I'm the lead writer and designer for Shiver at Parable Games. So Shiver is a play your very own scary movie on the tabletop. You can play anything from Stranger Things to Scream to Alien. As long as there's an element of horror, mystery, something spooky going on, you can play it with this system. It's a new dice system. It uses the archetype system, one of our own design. We've taken kind of a lot of the maths out of the system to make it a very beginner-friendly RPG. It's a dice pool system. The better you are at something, the more dice that you roll. And every side of our core skill die represents an attribute that the character can call upon in order to roll a check. So if I grab one of these, so I can show you. So these are one of our core skill dice. So say I wanted to kick down a door, for example, I'd be asking for a grit check as the director, which is our version of AGM.
Sure.
So if I was a warrior archetype, all of our characters are archetypal. They can slot into any story, kind of anywhere, anytime. I'd be looking at my grit pool, assembling these as the bulk. But if I was a warrior, it's something I'm very good at, so I'm talented, and I'd get one of these. So this is a talent die. So our talent symbols, these stars here, are a universal success for everything that isn't strange. So strange is the skill that we use for resisting fear and odd things in the world, but also if you want to turn into a werewolf, levitate a chair with your mind, read from the Necronomicon, anything like that would kind of fall under strange. So the thing where the system gets really, really interesting is because of the symbolic nature of the dice. You can have a straight success where you roll enough symbols and do the thing that you want to do. However, let's take the door kick example again. Say you rolled a bunch of smarts. Instead, as a director, I could say you kick the door, stub your toe and take 1 damage. However, as you're hopping around yowling about your toe, you see a loose brick where there is a keypad hidden that you can hack to move forwards. Yeah. So it's a fail-forward mechanic that engages roleplay from both sides of the table. So players and the director can suggest things, and we call it reading the knuckle bones. Because the dice have those evocative symbols, it can help tell a story. And coming back to strange, if you fail and you roll a strange symbol, that triggers our doom clock. It's a 60-minute clock you can track in your character sheet on the top of our screens, and at 15-minute markers, horror movie events happen. Right. So take a slasher movie, for example. So say we're at Camp Crystal Lake, it's shutting down for the summer, and at 1:15, somebody cuts the power. 1:30, somebody sabotages the school bus, our only escape vehicle. 1:45, you hear a scream, Camp Counselor Kenny has been dragged off into the woods and is dead, and at midnight, you're Jason Voorhees, you're Michael Myers, comes out of the woods and is a permanent stalking threat. And so that's the archetype dice system in a nutshell.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, from the sounds of it, it reminds me of like Star Wars, for example, because it has Force and
exactly
all the symbols on it. But this is much, but on top, compared to that, this is much even more narrative driven with the symbols. Yeah. Excellent. And then book-wise, so as I say, it supports everything from Stranger Things to Hammer horror to slashers, and then you've also got, I see, other books which key into those particular subgenres. So
absolutely. So this is so Gothic's our first major expansion. In terms of structure of the books that we have, so this is our core rule book. So this has absolutely everything that you need to play to make a character, all of our rules for being a director, a full beastry, monsters, weapons, items. There's even a starter adventure as well that guides you through running your first story, and that's our core rule book. Our second product is our Cursed Library. So it's 5 unique stories. We call it a Temptation book. It's got various stories from different subgenres that can kind of show you what you can do with the system. And that's everything from kids on bikes to 70s slashers to space horror to Weird West, and my love letter to John Carpenter's The Things is my favourite horror movie. Gothic, so that was kind of a lot more one-shot or three-shot focused in terms of replicating that tight 90s cinema experience on tabletop. Gothic starts exploring our first unique setting and kind of longer format play. So in Secrets of Spy Home, we have our first original setting, Spy Home. So it's a full kind of walled Gothic city that you can explore, and you can do that as our new monstrous archetypes. So we don't just expand the story options, we also expand what you can play as. So if you want to play as Frankenstein's monster, a werewolf, and the Invisible Man, and go punch supernatural crime together, you can do it with this book. In here you have all new rules, a load of lore for the setting, and then a full, massive 10-chapter story that interconnects. That is a monstrous conspiracy you're uncovering that's threatening to tear the city apart. There's also even a one-shot in the back, which is my love letter to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, my favourite Gothic kind of book, that can introduce your players in a quick session to the worlds that this book's set within. But you can also, like anything with Shiver, extract those rules and put Frankenstein's monster in modern day, in space, whatever you want to do. Our second book in the Gothic range is Disciples of Dregstone. So once you're done playing in that Gothic city below, you can flush your players into the sewers beneath, where due to chemical waste being dumped into the sewers, it's gone very Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but in a more medieval sense, and the rats have mutated into a medieval society. That will seem familiar to some of our fans on the podcast. But your spin on Ratmen. My spin on Ratmen, I mean, it is, I won't beat around the bush, I love Skaven. I love them to pieces, but I find them having to be inherently evil was something I had a problem with, and I've always wanted to play as them. So you can be good, you can be bad, you can play as a rat bard. Like the whole story with this is that you're flushed into the sewers and you're getting involved in a revolution against a despotic monarch called the Rat King. It's a great kind of mixture of like dark fantasy, dungeon delving, rat folk, mutants, and even a good dose of Les Mis. So a bit like how Star Wars is a space opera, I call this a sewer opera. It's big, it's bombastic, and it's really, really fun with lots of terrifying moments as well. And that's Dregstone.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
Right, so that's all the books. So I can see we've also got limited edition versions of Shiver for the Gothic book.
Yeah, so that's a special edition of Secrets of Spy Home.
Brilliant. Great. Well, if people want to find out more, there's they can see the links there. shiverrpg.com. Thanks again, and we'll have more content, and I hope you enjoy the expo.
Oh, cheers! Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
So yeah, Shiver looks really interesting, and we'll endeavour to get them onto the podcast. And then also, of course, with again huge stand, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Is Free League, who are back with, they've got a Blade Runner RPG, they've got the One Rings, the Lord of the Rings RPG, they've got Alien, and a whole host of other things. So I talked to Matt from the Effect podcast about how Free League's going.
We're good to go. So I'm here with Matthew from
the Effect podcast.
The Effect podcast, sorry.
I'm also from Free League.
I'm from Free League. So yeah, you're back representing Free League again. You're an island.
This is, can you pan around our fabulous 8x8 metre stand? This is the biggest stand we've had.
Forbidden Lands, we've got
Twilight 2000, we've got Alien over there, we've got the Punk Corner over there.
because I've got Cyborg through from them and I need to play it.
Yeah. Well, what you might also want to do is get Johan Raw to sign your Cyborg.
I don't have it with me. I got a Kickstarter back.
Maybe buy another copy. Why don't you?
Maybe, yeah.
And over here we've got Versen, which is proving to be a real perennial seller.
Yeah.
I think this is going to last. Got a long tail, this one.
Because Graham Davis did the UK Islands setting material.
Yeah, so he did most of that book. Dave and I contributed a little bit to that book as well, so that's good. We've got one copy of one Mutant book left in stock. We're selling really, it feels to me like it's been a really successful show this year. I was a bit worried, particularly today with the train strike. And it's the first time we've had, it's the first time we've had 5 English members of staff. Sometimes freely come along, but now they're playing a bunch of freelancers. I really wanted it to be a financial success for them.
Yeah. So that's really cool.
But it's worked really well.
Yeah. You've also been demoing One Ring?
No, we've been demoing the Lord of the Rings 5e version.
Yes.
And also a few other games as well, but really that's the new hotness. Although it's interesting, I think in this particular market, the sort of people that are coming here are probably au fait enough with role-playing games that they know whether they want 5e or they're actually more interested in other systems than moving beyond 5e. So.
Yeah. I mean, I've been picking and choosing what I want to take photos and get interviews with, because when you're deep in the ecosystem, it's like you know what's there. But I mean, it's different to Dragon Meet, because obviously this is very board games focused.
Broader focus generally on games, yeah. So we've got board games here as well. Though we've got the Charles and the Loop board game.
Yeah,
and we sold quite a few of those. I think we brought 6 with us, so we're down to 3. So sales are generally doing well. I'm quite pleased.
And how's the podcast going?
Podcast is going great. So at 5 o'clock today, in fact, I'm closing off from the stand with Dave, and we're taking Johan with us, and we're doing a live recording. So if you're around at 5,
I'm heading home by that point already. I'm just doing a day, just to ease myself back into events. I'm not running any demos. It would knack me out. Plus, I've got a new job starting on Monday, so keeping it easy. Great. Well, that's great. I mean, there's so many new things and a lot of things from Freelink these days. Like, there's also the Blade Runner RPG.
Yes. So Blade Runner's there on the far side of the stand over there. We won Best Adventure for the Blade Runner starter set, the Judges Award, and we're hoping that we might win the People's Choice Award as well. But that's a more difficult fight. And so you get a starter set there, you get the core rule book as 2 products we've got on sale at the moment, and of course judges screen, things like that. Starter set's lovely, loads of material, you feel a bit like you're Harrison Ford himself going through the photo and saying enhance.
Excellent.
So that's gone really well, but and what's interesting me, as I say, Versen is still selling really well now, a few years into its production.
What books have we got out? So we've got now...
So we've got the core book. You mentioned Graham Davis's book here, which is Mythic Britain and Ireland. We've got Seasons of Mystery, and we've got a reprint because we sold out of all of these, but it's been really popular. Wicked Secret. And again, we're down to the last 4 copies of that, so that's still the most popular, it seems.
Brilliant. Well, I guess that's everything that's here. So thanks for running us through what's new and what's hot from Freelink, and glad the podcast is going straight to
bear in mind, Dragonbane comes out in time for Gen Con. We're talking about what's new and what's hot. And Dragonbane is the world's role-playing system. Really giving it to the world.
Okay, obviously with events, of course, Great, well thanks again, Matthew. Thanks for running us through that, and enjoy the rest of the expo.
Cheers.
Right, and then what else did I do with my day? I dropped in on Tabletop, and I had a quick stint on their stream talking about my work, in particular for Iron Kingdoms RPG and the Kickstarters that have been and gone for that, and what we're expecting to that's coming out to backers soon, and what already has arrived to backers. So like Nightmare Empire has arrived on our doorsteps, and those books are fantastic, if I do say so myself. And the other cool things that I picked up related to streaming. So James Wallace, whom I've chatted with when I've been on when I've been on the Rookery publications or Rookery publishing stream is this book by James Wallace, which is Everybody Wins. So this is the 4 decades of the greatest board games ever made. So he has a look at the list of the best war games ever made, not board games ever made, as voted by Game of the Year at Germany's Game of the Year award, which is a prestigious award to receive, and looks at the games that win that award. And there's a few in there which I think that I've played. There's a lot I've not played, and I think it's going to be really interesting to read about why those games got those awards, because I like miniatures, but a lot of people like board games that don't use miniatures, and there are some very good ones out there. And it really depends what you want. I mean, these more what you call Euro games versus more Ameritrash. What else do I see though? UK Games Expo. We had Bad Squiddo there with Annie and her stall, which had a huge selection of miniatures. That would be perfect if you're into kind of more old hammer and you want a bit more diversity in your collection. Then there was also Oathsworn, and that's like I think 54mm scale narrative driven miniatures board game that had kind of Kingdom Death vibes and some amazing sculpts in that. And then basically the rest of my time was taken up with doing a bit of shopping and looking for the things I've got here. I dropped by the I saw Folded Space. You can't see that little thing. That do inserts into your board games to allow you to organise things much better. So I'm going to be looking at that, I think, in the next few months to get the inserts to tidy up my Kingdom Death, because they've got inserts at layer, so that makes it nice to look after. And then there was also Rock Miniatures, who makes very good War Master proxies. So I'm very interested in those because I love War Master as a war game. And that's pretty much it. So, I got to see who I wanted to see, got to chat to who I wanted to chat to about things. There are things on my horizon that I'm keen to follow up on. I feel primed for more conventions this year. This is the first UK Games Expo that I've driven down to. That was an experience. And it's got me in the mood for Dragon Meat and what we can do there with roleplay games. But yeah, if you've enjoyed listening to this and enjoyed the interviews, then please you could subscribe here. That'd be very nice. But we do less video content than we do, say, podcasting. So head over to our podcast, listen to the interviews and episodes and insight that we have there. Catch up on Crystal Mazer's series on freelancing and what it's like to be a freelancer. Catch up on our Warhammer streams. We've got the next episode of Dark Iron to record. And thank you for listening, and we'll catch up again soon. So goodbye for now.